let's revisit our definition for what allyship is and what it means to be an ally. It's the practice of unlearning and relearning. It's a lifelong process of building relationships based on trust, consistency, and accountability with marginalized individuals and groups. And I think the most important thing is that allyship is an action, right? It's not an identity. So it's not this thing where it's like you can just decide to be one day, and then for the rest of your life be like, hey, I'm an ally. I'm an ally.
Mother, teacher.
I work at an insurance company and I'm also an ally. Which might be true, but it's gotta mean that you're doing stuff, right?
To remember how to be an ally, all you have to remember is ally. Okay, so the A stands for act, right? So use your power and privilege to confront and interrupt oppression. Over the summer, Ben and I went to a conference, and the keynote speaker was a criminal prosecutor named Adam Foss. And he talked about our power and our privilege being like a sword and a shield. And he says that our shield, that's our privilege, right? It's the thing that protects us from the oppression that other people experience. But our sword is the ability to do good with the privilege that we've been given, right? Because where we have the most privilege is where we have the power to enact real and meaningful change. So that's the A. The L, the first L stands for listen. Trust people's lived experiences. Trust the experiences of marginalized people, and do not invalidate them, right, by projecting your own experiences, which, like we said before, like there's a piece of that puzzle that you're missing because you don't have that experience. So listen. The second L is learn. Learn about privilege and structures of oppression. Do your homework. Google it. 2019, right? That question that you have, that thing that you did, someone else has asked it, someone else has done it, so do your research. Do not expect oppressed people to educate you on the systems that oppress them. And then the Y stands for yield. Be aware of how much space you're occupying, resist the urge to save people, to speak over, to speak for.
Like here we're talking about different privileged identities and then the ways that we can be allies to multiple communities when we're coming from a privileged place.
I also think, just like with bias, we are unlearning and relearning, and so practicing, and I'm a big practicer. I called him the other day, I was super excited because I was in a meeting and somebody said something and I was like, I've been practicing for this for weeks. I was like, I'd like to go back to what you just said, and then I was like so excited to be able to say all the things, but the more that you like practice it when you're not in that high stakes situation, the more that you are ready to say like, wait a minute, that's not okay, and I know why. Right.
And even if you can't quite explain why it's not okay, you could literally just say, hey, that thing you just said, that wasn't okay. What do you mean? Google it.
So it's hard to have a conversation about allyship without first talking about our social identities and then the power and privilege that attaches to them, right? So we're talking about social group identity. We're talking about an identity that indicates that you belong to a broader social group that either grants or denies you access to power and privilege. We are all multifaceted human beings, right? We belong to many different groups, all of which intersect race, gender, class, ability. Some examples of microaggressions are, what are you? You don't act like a normal black person, you know? You're too pretty to be gay. And you don't speak Spanish, right? And I think it's also important that we know right here that directionality is extremely important when we're talking about microaggressions. Again, we're not just talking about annoying little comments. We're talking about someone who holds a privileged identity, saying or doing something that conveys a negative assumption or bias about a group with a non-privileged identity.
So what if because you're dealing with kids too, and I'm sure that sometimes they've almost internalized these microaggressions against themselves.
Yeah.
Like what do you do in that situation? Self-deprecating, but like it's just deeper than they realize.
Yes, I mean, I think if we're talking about a child, first and foremost, I'd want to create a situation where we're protecting the child's dignity, right? So maybe we're having this conversation privately, but then you can still use the PALS acronym, right? So first we pause, like, hey, let's go back to this thing that was happening where you said this thing or you used this word, right? And then acknowledging or asking, right? Like, here's how I took that, or here's how I understood that. Like, is this what you meant, or what did you mean? And then listening to the child. And then, like, if there's like a gap in information, or if there's like a truth that you need to express to the student, speaking your own truth. And most importantly, like, not in a way that's shaming.